Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, as always, please do subscribe. Get that little bell click to get new videos up, usually on a daily basis, both EEARTS and Evolutionary Energy Arts, as Rama's looking like he wants to talk into the mic here. You want to say something, Ram? He's just giving it a kiss. What a sweet boy he is.
He is a darling, precious little boy, and he's so tall. He's like right up here at her. He's tall.
Yeah, when he stands on his hind legs, he's as tall as Cindy. Yeah. So, yeah, Cindy's like 5'5", 5'6". And right under him is Sassy, who is 12 pounds of terror. Well, 12 pounds of sweetness. And, Rama's going to be 110 pounds probably when he's full grown. Think about that. That the difference in the size of man's best friend. There's all different sized dogs. There's all different strengths and points that they have been bred for. Some dogs are born protectors, other ones are born hunters, other ones are companions, meant to be on your lap all the time. Sassy's kind of that way. And before we go any farther, do want to thank our Patreons. We really couldn't do it without the support we get on a monthly basis over at Patreon, also on Ko-Fi. And do check out Medicinal Foods, lots of good stuff to help boost the immune system and help you detox. Use coupon code EEA. That gets you a discount. It does support the channel. Yet again, let's listen to Yuval Noah Harari. He is one of the brain trusts in the WEF. So listen to his words, because I tell you, he's told us kind of like all the plans that they got. I mean, they got to kind of let us know what's going on for karmic purposes. And then I think they just enjoy doing it, too.
I think they do. It's really disturbing to think that. But once you really have to see things for what they are to understand what's happening.
Yeah, let's listen to his own words.
And we start again. In the 21st century, a new Stalin might have the ability first to really re-engineer the body down to the level of DNA and create new human species, and perhaps even to create completely inorganic life forms. So we can imagine millions of years of a new evolutionary track beginning with some 21st century Stalin. And this is extremely frightening, especially because these kinds of people, they think in extremes. I talk a lot with scientists who are developing these technologies, whether it's CRISPR and genetic engineering, whether it's AI. And most of these people, they think not only in beneficial terms, but also in very narrow terms. Like, I'm doing my research in order to help cure Parkinson's disease. It's a leap of the imagination to think, what would the worst politician on earth do with the technologies that I'm developing? But as a historian, rather than as a biologist or as a computer scientist, this is the way my mind thinks. When somebody tells me how they are now using CRISPR to try and overcome Parkinson, I think, what would Stalin have done with it?
He thinks, what would Stalin have done with it? Stalin was responsible for the deaths of countless millions. I mean, some people think 9 to 10 million. Some people think 20 million. I've even seen it higher than that. He was responsible for Holodomor. The Holodomor was basically one of the most horrible events we've had in the 20th century, which caused the death of millions in Ukraine, which we see the problem there. Millions of Ukrainians were killed. It was part of a Soviet purposeful famine, an orchestrated famine. And, that was some horrific event. Stalin wiped out, he was an absolute dictator, and he wiped out millions and millions of people. So the fact that he's bringing up a new Stalin and having the ability to re-engineer the human body down to the level of DNA and create an entirely new human species, and perhaps even to create completely inorganic life, that's everything in a nutshell, you know?
Yeah, I would like to think that he's just making conversation, but I have a feeling he's repeating some things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think this is exactly how they do it, you know? It's right there. It's right there. And again, Joseph Stalin killed millions and was aligned with the US and UK in World War II. Actually, at first he had an agreement with Hitler that they weren't going to attack each other. And then, they actually did split up Poland. They struck Poland and they split it in half. And then when Hitler attacked the Soviet Union, they joined forces with the US and UK. And eventually Germany was defeated. Maybe not the NAZISs, but Germany and Italy and Japan. Again, why would you bring up such a horrific dictator? Well, again, they have the ultimate say. There's nobody to say anything else, right? A dictatorship makes things simple. Say something, put it into writing, and it's done. When we saw hospitals going up in China during the beginning in Wuhan of the outbreak of the plague upon the land, they were getting done in like 2 weeks. And the red tape and everything that the way the Western system is, there's no way that could be done in that period of time. Yet it could be done in a dictatorship. And of course, we do recognize that there are the true puppet masters that are behind the scenes that we never see. Even Stalin, he was still taking orders, even though he was apparently a dictator. Sure. Everybody that we see is always taking orders, always. When we already look back at the human family tree and we gotta say, why are we here and nobody else is here? Why not Denisovans? Why not Neanderthals? I mean, they both were more robust than us. They were stronger than us physically, and their brains were larger. Are you going to tell me that we outthought them? That we outfought them? It's just amazing at all the different species, humanoid species that have been on this planet, that all of a sudden come to a dead end. They're here, then they're gone. And maybe some of their DNA gets moved along, and in some cases, maybe not. And they always make them look very less than modern Homo sapiens as far as intelligence. But is that really the case? As we could see, many different faces, all what we would call humanoid. Some, when you get back to Australopithecus, which they recently found a new sample that they say is even 1 million years older than what we had thought Australopithecus was. And that, when you get down to this level, these are beings that we might not say look so human. But did they really look exactly like that? Did all these beings look as they are represented? When we look today to the tribes around the world, you can see the pygmies, right? This guy, I don't know how tall he is, venture to say by, looking at these other guys in the background. Maybe he's typical, maybe he's 6 foot, maybe he's a little bit taller. These guys are very, very small, and yet we see just amazing diversity around this world. Everybody's face a little bit different. And depending on where you go, there's different characteristics. Such diversity on this planet. Truly, it's amazing. Yet we're all Homo sapiens, or at least most of us.
Yeah, most of us.
You know, depending on where you go, again, traditions a little bit different, characteristics a little bit different, size a little bit different. And then, of course, we have those recessant genes, so they say, that pop up every now and then. Maybe it's just simply, you know, a malfunctioning gland makes this, you know, makes somebody's growth gene just keep going and going and going. Or maybe, you know, who knows who their ancestors really, really were. I mean, look at how tall he is. And he's not alone. So many documented cases of giants as well. So what's he really talking about then? This is the same outfit that has said that this is perhaps the last, or maybe next to last, generation, and that was a few years back, of Homo sapiens on the planet. And then bringing in that inorganic component. And as we know, there's so much talk about the singularity, the merger of humans with machine. And he was talking himself about CRISPR and altering DNA. And then, of course, the plague upon the land led to a quote-unquote cure, of which some are all about RNA, which leads to a lot of questions. Are we watching, truly, the end of Homo sapiens sapiens as we know it? Well, naturally, we would be. And artificially, we probably are as well.
You know, what they're doing to us is they're just kind of making us go into this place where the energies are separating. We have choices to make. If we want to be with these kind of beings who are going to do this sort of engineering, as if you would engineer pets for other people, you know, I mean, dogs, you want dogs to be more protective, you can engineer that. You want them to be more of a companion, you can engineer that. So they're moving into the engineering phase of people. And I think this is where we can look at the separation of energies and know that that's a real thing, and that's been coming up more and more and more. It's very palatable, people not wanting to be part of this process that they are creating. And it is very much artificial. And now we do have a choice, but we have to step back. We have to step back from the electronics. We have to step back from these things that do make our lives easy. And those are the steps that aren't so easy, but everybody has a choice to make.
Absolutely, as many are well aware of, with the concept of ascension and the reconfiguring of our DNA, the energetic changes that we're going through right now as we leave the Kali Yuga, get ready to go into a new age and all new opportunities. When we've looked at these legends, these so-called myths from various places, like we've looked at the Greek mythology and seen that the Greek mythology reflects the same thing we see from Vedic thought, that in different ages, humans are very different in general. In a dark age, humans don't live long. Their lives are kind of tough. There's a lot of toil, a lot of struggle. But as we go towards the golden age, you know, we're going to be transversing into what you call the Bronze Age, then silver, then gold. And that does take time. It takes thousands of years to go through that whole transition. But then we'll see humans' lifespan increasing. And it's really all about the genes in so many ways, about telomeres, the telomeres not withering away. But that also has so much to do with our environment. We have seen that things were bigger and more robust in the past. We can look to dinosaurs, but we could also look to other species as well. And even when you go into the Vedic lines of thinking, humans are actually taller, much, much bigger in a golden age. Then they're slightly smaller in a silver, slightly smaller in the bronze. And when we get to the Kali Yuga, they're smaller yet. And then it reverses again as we go on the ascending phase. So it's fascinating to see that. And then when they talk about lifespans, 100 years is thought to be ancient in the Kali Yuga, but that's 1,000 years in the bronze, and then 10,000 years in the silver, and 100,000 years in the golden age. And yeah, there are people that just can't conceive of that and say, no way, I will never believe that. That's impossible. But again, we're talking about changing. Ultimately, in 5D, you're in a light body. So, your whole makeup is very, very different than this heavy, dense world. And so what's he talking about? Well, he's talking about something very different. Because the beings that, again, these masters serve, they don't go any higher than lower 4th D. That's really where they're at. That's their home territory. So, what he's talking about, it's a good sales job. And they are going to sell people. The time will come when they get to the point where all the travesties that we see going on, and the war ends, everything kind of calms down to a degree. What they'll roll out, instead of rolling out the stick, they're going to roll out the carrot. And the carrot's going to be technology that will extend your life indefinitely. But of course, you're going to have to do certain things that are going to change you forever.
So again, it brings us back to that choice, back to that decision that we make. And all of us are very individual. We are all very, very unique. We all have a very unique, even a galactic history that's very unique. We all have visible traits and invisible traits, and our invisible traits, which are our abilities, are starting to come out and they're starting to be seen. People are recognizing that there are parts of them that they never knew existed, and they have these abilities that they are now able to use, these senses that are quite strong and powerful, and their individuality is really starting to bloom. And these are some things that the controllers don't like. It makes them kind of uncomfortable because it makes us a little less controllable. So they're going to ask people to come forward with these offerings of, here, this is going to make your life easier. This is going to make your life better. It's going to make your life longer. Well, they're stuck on the lower 4D. They can't go any higher because they've already sold themselves out. They're stuck there, and they would love to have company because they don't want to do everything themselves. They do want beings to do things for them. But this is the time where we have our individuality, which is really blooming because we all come from a different aspect. We all have a different galactic history, and this is why we all have different abilities. And while these are blooming, it's like they're trying to cover it up. They're trying to shut down these abilities and keep it quiet, keep it hush hush, and get them distracted over here. So it's just a really important time to know your worth, stand your ground, be true to yourself, and, help others. If others are curious about moving in a different direction too, just be there for them.
Absolutely. When we look at the philosophy and the point of view of modern science on even our consciousness, and we had read maybe about 5 or 6 videos back, this little blurb that was saying, modern science views it that consciousness is a byproduct of chemical reactions in your brain, chemical and electric reactions in your brain, when that is not the case at all. Our consciousness is, it always will be. It just changes. It just changes vehicles. And changing vehicles is a natural, normal way of doing things. Now, why would they say that? Well, you're just basically a byproduct of your biology. Because that's going to scare you into wanting to maintain that body at any cost. And that would nudge you into doing things that if you knew that you don't stop existing, that you don't, that your existence, if you knew that your existence would continue when the body dies, many, knowing that, would do things much differently than if they thought that when they died there was nothingness. They would act in a very, very different way. So, again, using fear as a tool, they can definitely entice people to make that leap and go ahead and, maybe put that heart in from some sort of pig human hybrid that was grown just for that purpose. Or maybe, introduce some other technologies in there. Merging human with machine, merging human with all sorts of other stuff.
And there's a lot of stories of people who pass away before their time, but they have offered their heart, or they've offered something, and those people that have taken their heart actually take on some of their traits. These cells have you and the person that they were inside. If you do take that heart, if you do take this organ, you are going to have memories of that person, and not just them, but you're going to have their whole lineage. So it's not like you can just put an inorganic thing in your body and call it human.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing with other things that we're taking into our body. If we're taking other stuff into our body, into our energy field, which is from a source that we might deem ultimately as having characteristics that you could label as evil, and you're taking that into yourself, are you not perhaps allowing evil to get a foothold in you? Or the darker side of things, if we look at it in terms of Star Wars and the Force, the light side and the dark side. Knowingly taking something into you that you know is of the dark side, that's just insanity, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's everybody has a choice to make. Some people might be okay with it, and that's okay. And the reason Mike and I do this is because once you wake up and you start to understand what the real world is around you and what they're trying to pour on you, most people would not voluntarily step into these products of what they call expansion, or they might call technology. If you knew that what that was about, you might not so voluntarily just jump right into it.
So, just to kind of rephrase things, in this century, there might become a dictatorship that would have the ability to completely re-engineer Homo sapiens as we know it and create a totally new human species that perhaps is even mixed with inorganic life. There you go. That's kind of it in a nutshell. That's exactly, that's it. Thanks for sharing, Yuval.
Thank you.
Yes. And you guys, as always, thanks for being part of the family. Much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.